The MAGA movement really doesn't believe in the Constitution, doesn't believe in the First Amendment. They want to be able to use the power of the government to tell you, me, everybody else what to do in their image. They love the idea of cancel culture. They want to be able to use it themselves. And that's why the entire MAGA movement was so gleeful when Jimmy Kimmel got suspended here.
Let's hop into a Piers Morgan panel to kind of put a pin in this free speech debate that took over the airwaves this last week before Jimmy Kimmel returned to his gig. So take a moment, leave us a like on the video, helps us out a ton, gives us a boost in the algorithm, and let's get right into the panel.
The right actually had a pretty good argument to make that some aspects of cancel culture had gone too far. And what most of them have proven, and you see that in Matt's response right now, they didn't really believe in that. They love the idea of cancel culture. They want to be able to use it themselves. And that's why the entire MAGA movement was so gleeful when Jimmy Kimmel got suspended here. And let's be clear, Matt said that this doesn't have anything to do with the government. It has everything to do with the government. The only reason ABC suspended Kimmel in the first place was because Donald Trump's FCC threatened to remove ABC's broadcasting license. And the point on the affiliates, Matt, I didn't interrupt you. I'd ask if you didn't interrupt me, please. Thank you.
That's not right.
The whole thing with the Sinclair and the rest of the affiliates, like, they're working through a merger right now. So Donald Trump uses the power of the federal government to get what he wants. And that's what he's doing here. And I'm glad to see folks on the left, the right, the middle coming out, Joe Rogan, a whole bunch of other comedians. That's a good thing.
Right. I mean, this whole absolutist free speech and anti-cancel culture moniker had sort of become one of MAGA's main pillars these last few years, if you listen to them at least. But what we're finding out is it was just useful to their whole victim mentality, which is their only pillar that they portray when they're out of power. Because what we're seeing is cancel culture is what they'll do the second they get power back. Donald Trump is now talking about suing ABC just because Kimmel is back. Literally just wanting to use any bit of thumb on the scale he can to tip it in the favor of authoritarianism, where full force, if you dissent from this administration, if you call it out in any way, if you even make a joke about it they don't like, you will be silenced.
What we're finding, though, is that the MAGA movement really doesn't believe in the Constitution, doesn't believe in the First Amendment. Also, I point out, doesn't really believe in the Second Amendment, because we're 2.5 weeks removed from them saying they were going to ban all transgender individuals in the country from having guns, and the NRA had to come out and rebuke them. So they don't really believe in these rights. They want to be able to use the power of the government to tell you, me, everybody else what to do in their image. That's
and do you believe, and okay, but using that yardstick, presumably you would condemn the Biden administration bullying Google into censoring YouTube accounts for talking about COVID.
So I think there's a huge difference between what we're talking about. When you talk about free speech, you don't have the right to shout fire in a crowded theater because people could get hurt. So I think it's worth having a conversation of, if people are intentionally spreading disinformation using social media platforms, can the government step in, have a conversation with the company? I'm happy to have that.
Right. And this is the correct point. We understand multiple circumstances where the government is entitled to step in and limit speech for protection of like all type of reasons, like yelling fire, bombing an airport, etc. And whether or not spreading dangerous misinformation that could lead to thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands dead on social media, whether or not that fits in the category, that's a real conversation. Obviously is a real conversation that society is going to have at some point as it evolves as our sort of public square. Anyone sensible could admit that, and anyone logical would also admit the same principle that justifies the government stepping in when bomb is yelled at an airport justifies them stepping in with COVID misinformation in the wake of a pandemic. But of course, that affected conservatives, so conservatives will never admit to any of this. Somehow that's overreach, but Trump going after people making mean jokes about him isn't.
The analogy of yelling fire in a crowded theater doesn't hold up here, because the government was telling us, you don't have the right to yell accurate COVID information during a pandemic. People were being deplatformed for simply saying that vaccinated people were continuing to catch COVID. And one of the people cheering them on was Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is guilty of everything he's crying out against right now in terms of cheering on other people's censorships. Yes, wearing blackface, which he better watch with the blackface, because if you get caught doing that too many times, they make you the Prime Minister of Canada. It's a very severe penalty.
This guy had no argument for the facts laid out, and he said, well, I'll just double down on the lies. I would love any proof that people were censored for saying, well, the vaccine, like, no, they were censored for lying about the vaccine's efficacy or lying about the effects from the vaccine, like the whole myocarditis bullshit, which occurs, but occurs an order of magnitude less than it does from COVID, which again, the vaccine saved millions of lives from COVID, leaving many to not take it because of this misinformation. As a result, would then cause people to die. And the ones who were hawking ivermectin, like the slimy weasels they are, trying to profit in the wake of a pandemic while shoveling misinformation in the mouths of their gullible base. Again, where you fall in this debate is one thing, but to pretend in the wake of a pandemic where hundreds of thousands had already died, it looked like this is only going to continue. People were rejecting the vaccine because of this sorts of misinformation, that having the conversation about misinformation being censored regarded, whether that's like warranted, is clearly warranted. It's clearly a conversation that they were going to have. Whoever was in charge was going to have that conversation. And in my opinion, it's the utmost justified, just like the government prohibiting your speech when they arrest you for yelling bomb at an airport. No MAGA could ever justify that and logically make a case against it for COVID misinformation.